Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Bone Voyage event, in which the Bane Jaw is added to the game. We also have the first instance of the flash offer calendar being in place. They're going to be having for the Shark Week here, the normal Battle Crasher, which will end up giving 500 bonus gold every single time we see it. And that'll be every few battles, so quite a bit of extra gold that we can earn from that. But other than that, we have the new little flash offer thing over here, which is basically one of the new features that came in the most recent patch. It's going to be a combination of just the standard flash offers that they have for money, some that you can do with gems, which obviously will give stuff other than gems, and apparently one for free. So they'll be doing these. How good it will be, we do not know. Based on this, it doesn't look too enticing, because this is pretty much just one of the standard ones that they normally run. But hopefully the gem-related ones and the free one will be at least somewhat okay. We'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. But anyways, let's get into the troop itself and get into things. So first off, of course, he has brown purple trait stone. Great time to go stock up on it if you need it for anything. There are several mythics that need it, but as far as other rarity stuff, not too many. Drake Rider and Rock Spirit early on in the game, and other than that, Daughter of Ice for the blue convert instantly. Glaceon just is a good frontline tank with skull spam. Add Magnus mainly for its random stats effects, and it's impervious. As far as this troop itself, it is somewhat useful. Wild Plains ended up getting a rework this week, which ends up making quite a bit of the troops within the kingdom better. They still didn't buff some things like Hydra, but all of the gnolls they did end up buffing. They made it so all of them will end up doing 2 times skull damage to their opposing color, and they also made it so each one has a 50% chance of missing, but they all made them basically uniform in their ability, basically. So they all have a they do their normal damage. It's a 50% chance that it'll hit the wrong enemy, so 50% chance it will hit whatever you target, 50% chance it will hit incorrectly, and given that these teams are normally going to be used on Guild War Defend, it's going to be the AI using them anyways, so that's normally not going to matter much, since you're using it against a team of 4 that are all the same color. And if the enemy uses a purple, or in this case the purple, on the other ones whatever the color is associated to, it'll end up dealing triple damage. And all of them that do that triple damage to a certain color, like this one being purple, will do double damage on skulls to that color, which of course is purple in this instance. This one also in particular gains Enrage whenever it ends up getting a kill, or anything on your team ends up getting a kill. So this is going to be pretty good since you'd be able to do 3.5 times damage, as well as having a hit through skull reduction related things. If they have 25% dodge, or they have 20 dodge, 20% dodge, 50% armor, anything like that, it'll be able to hit through with its Enrage while still doing 3.5 times damage, which is going to one-shot most things on a purple Guild War day once it has that combination. And on top of that, it even gets to create a skulls if it ends up getting a kill, which of course could potentially trigger its 3.5 times damage on skulls to purple. So really, really good purple defend for Guild War. Other than that, it's going to have no purpose whatsoever, because unless your enemy is using 4 purple for whatever reason on PvP defend or something, this is basically never going to become relevant. And in factions and stuff, it's not going to be that viable either. So it's basically only a Guild War purple defend day, and that's about as far as you're ever going to be able to use that troop. Other than that, as far as other weekly evently things, of course, 500 gold every single time you end up killing one of those battle crashers. These will be lasting all week, and that is quite a decent amount of gold. They do appear quite often, probably every few battles or so, and they do not overwrite gnomes. So if you would have gotten a gnome on a battle, you'll get the gnome instead of the battle crasher. And other than that, we have 10% to all tourists and 10% to all war gears, as well as a 400 gold bonus whenever we use Bane Jaw in PvP and Explore. Given how the troop is set up, you probably don't want to do this. Just go for quicker kills and keep getting more of the 500 gold off of the Battle Crasher this week. There was a glitch, as many of you know, last weekend, where the final room of the faction was a basically lower overall loot than it should have been. It was a 1 times multiplier when it should have been a 1.25, and it was a 0 chest when it should have been a 100% chance for a chest. So they did some kind of formula and ended up giving out people a bunch of resources based on approximately how much loot they may have missed. I feel like more loot than this was actually missed based on how far it went, but it's at least an okay amount that it's probably fine. But yeah, they did end up reimbursing to some degree for the mistake that they ended up making earlier, which I didn't claim just so we could show it for now. I ended up getting about 550 shards going all the way to the end, where it should have been probably closer to 1,000 if not more, but oh well, better than nothing, I guess, and let's take that. Other than that, of course, let's go into troops. This is also in the description if you guys want to go check over the entire thing. But based on what I can remember off the top of my head, Wild Plains rework. So there were several. The first one that is most noteworthy is every single gnoll, as I mentioned, the 4 of them that are in this kingdom now have the 50% chance to hit the wrong enemy while doing their triple damage thing, as well as having 2 times skull damage on whatever that color that they do triple on is. Bullet ended up getting a mana cost reduced by 1. This makes it more in line with things like Gluttony, which makes it an even better early game option. Unfortunately, in them making Bullet a better early game option and more in line with Gluttony and other similar things, they did make it harder for factions, since the tier 4 room in factions does end up using 2 Bullets, and it's one of the slightly more annoying rooms that are within factions, and now that they buffed this by having a 1 lower mana cost, it is even more annoying. Other than that, we ended up, of course, on Null. He ended up getting the 50% chance to miss thing. They did end up getting rid of his, I believe he had Hunter's Mark on his ability, which he no longer has now, since he ended up giving it the 50% miss with the higher amount of damage. Other than that, we have ourselves a Bloodlust on him now, as well as the 2 times skull damage. So similarly, he'll be able to go do the 3.5 times damage in order to hit through traits, so he won't have to deal with armored or any other similar trait that might end up reducing down his skull damage. So going to be very, very potent as a counter against Browns for Brown Guild War, if you did want to use them in that way, and would even be able to hit through things like Gorgotha. Gorgon got a 1 higher mana cost, but overall got a gigantic buff to its ability. It now explodes a row instead of destroying a row, and it ends up doing splash damage now instead of just hitting the first slot. It still hits the first slot, but it hits it with splash damage, so the second enemy will take down 50% below it. And other than that, also knocks the first enemy all the way to the back. So it ended up getting knockback and explode instead of destroy for an entire row, as well as a half damage to the second enemy, since it always will end up hitting the first one. So overall, really nice changes to him. Hydra got a really, really excessively pitiful buff, in which they only increased it by 4 damage. They really need to make its boost ratio 3, and make that at least 5 damage, if not 10. But unfortunately, they missed a really good opportunity to buff Hydra. But Hydra, as many of you know, is 100% pointless. Basically a weaker version of Rowain. They're not exactly the same, but it's a excessively weaker version of Rowain, despite this being a higher rarity. But who knows, maybe they'll still make that change eventually. But he definitely needs a bigger boost ratio if they're going to keep him exactly like this, and his final trait is pointless. So overall, still a completely pointless troop, and the buff did nothing to change that. Next thing that was somewhat relevant, Minogor. Minogor ended up getting his ability slightly reworked. Now deals damage to an enemy, boosted by attack, life, and armor. A few other things from this kingdom ended up getting similar, but this is the most relevant one that did end up getting this, especially since you actually can use this within Arena, for anyone who still plays Arena. And he still has the highest base attack of anything in Arena, though very low durability because of that. And if the enemy's attack is weaker, ends up dealing double damage. So very similar to how he was before, except now the most relevant thing is he now boosts based on attack, life, and armor, which is something that he previously did not have. And it greatly increases the amount of damage that he'll be doing, especially if he ends up getting the double damage based on having higher attack, which more often than not, based on base attacks, he will, because he has a relatively high base attack. They did end up increasing his mana cost by 2 in order to compensate for this buff, but overall, I would say he is stronger now than he was previously. Mongo, I don't actually know exactly what they did with him, but they supposedly added additional things that can happen onto his ability. What exactly these are, I have no clue. Are they useful? I have no clue. Apparently one of them's Heavy Splash, because it just went through that. But, yeah, we didn't get... Oh, apparently Transform as well. I think he already had Devour. But, yeah, he does a bunch of ridiculously random stuff. They didn't give out a full list from what I could tell. They did the first time, this time they didn't. So go have fun with him and see what he does. Not sure if any of them are relevant, but even if he does something relevant, it's probably like a 1 in 12 chance, if even that high. So, still overall going to be way too useless of a troop, just because of how ridiculously inconsistent he is, even if some of them are somewhat okay. Savage Hunter, another one that ends up getting that similar change, now 50%. Oh, this was the one that got Hunter's Mark removed, by the way. I don't know why I thought it was the other one. But, again, same thing, same premise with all the other nulls, except he's green. One slightly different thing, though, is instead of having the Enrage, actually, never mind, they gave it the Enrage and the Eagle's Eye. So basically, they decked out his damage in every possible way. So he gets to do 2 times damage to everything. He gets to do additional 2 times damage to green. And he has an Enrage for 1.5 times damage. Didn't even realize they gave it all 3. So that means that is 5.5 damage to green troops. And yes, all those stack. And yes, they stack additively and not multiplicitly. So you actually get the full effect of every single one of them. So yeah, 5.5 times damage. That is almost 200 damage. Or at least in Guild Wars, it definitely would. That'd be 250-ish damage, somewhere around there. That is a lot of damage for Green Guild War Day, especially since most things aren't that tanky, and you would have Enrage, so even if they had traits to reduce it, they would die. Obviously, Entangle would hard counter that, but there are a lot of Entangles on Green. But yeah, that is going to be vicious on Green Defense. He also only has a 9 mana cost, which, yeah, that's going to be really cheap to cast. Next one is Skeleros. He ends up getting all of his abilities, being able to double the amount of skulls with an additional 2 now. They also lowered it by 1. This is very similar to a lot of the other trolls. They basically just made him more in line. And the only real difference is all the other trolls can do +3, whereas he only does +2. But yeah, they give him those 2 extra skulls, and they gave him the 1 lower mana cost. Still pretty useless of a troop, but slightly more consistent than he was before. Soothsayer now gives 1 to all stats to everything per cast instead of just magic. Still pretty useless, but at least slightly more useful with other Tauruses. If they made that like +2 or +3, that'd probably be really relevant, given that he isn't powered. As it currently stands, kind of average. Lowered Sunweaver's mana cost by 1. Taurus now has a 2 higher mana cost, except it now does light splash damage. Before, I believe it used to do 8 damage to the next enemy. So overall, a buff. Not only that, but it also gets to have a attack, life, and armor boost ratio. So way more damage than it was before, so it should end up working out pretty well. And I forget what they replaced out, but it also has a 20% score reduction now. And other than that, Winged Bison, they also gave a 20% score reduction to. And Winged Fang ended up getting the same modification that all the other ones did, all the other gnolls, and that is a 50% chance to miss. And they gave it a 2 times skull damage against its anti-color. And despite being the highest rarity of them, he's actually pretty much the least irrelevant one of them, just because they didn't really give it any other decent skull effect. But at least it has half mana start, if nothing else, automatically attached to the troop. But that is all of the rework with that. Next up, are event keys worth using? The answer to that is yes. Ketris the Bull is in the drop table. You can also get all the gnolls that were just buffed up if you wanted to get them ascended for Guild Wars, or just obtain them if you somehow didn't have copies of certain ones. Most of them are lower rarities, but that last one I showed was epic rarity. And this one is epic rarity, but you can just get it in Glory Shop. But the main reason you would use event keys is mostly just to try to attempt to get a Ketris, which is a mythic, which is only a 0.11 chance. However, it is one of the better top 5 pretty much mythics in the game, so definitely worth considering to have. And you can get it off event keys this week at a really low chance of 0.11 chance, or 0.11. Next up, of course, we have Guild Wars. Don't forget to go set your Guild War defend teams. Once it becomes the day, you won't be able to set them. But all the other ones you can set prior. So for example, once it goes to the next Guild War day, you won't be able to change your yellow one. But all the other ones you can whenever you want. This is what I'm currently doing for them. I did end up revamping them slightly. Still not sure if I'm going to be revamping a little bit more than this as far as defend. Finally put King Gobtruffle into the team. One other thing to note about King Gobtruffle is something that happened over the course of this weekend. It was confirmed that he's not getting nerfed, at least in the current state. Or at least they aren't currently planning on nerfing him, is basically what they said. So yeah, he might be like this for a couple weeks to a couple months to even maybe forever. So yeah, he is ridiculously strong, one of the better troops in the game right now, due to the fact that he has extra turn, a lot of damage, a lot of mana accumulation, and disease on top of all of that. So he has quite a few things going for him that is just going to make him very strong. So this is what I'm currently using for all the defense. Of course, the really annoying Bless thing. Easiest way to counter this is normally just skull spam and just kill it in one single instance of damage, just so you don't have to deal with it. On Green Day, there are several options that can end up doing that for you. But anyways, Guild Wars. Other than that, for our weekly events, we have a Silver Necropolis event this Tuesday. This is pretty much the first time it's been around, because the first time it technically came around on a Tuesday event was basically, it was right after it was initially released. So it didn't really feel like it was actually coming again. But this time it feels like forever, because the first time it got re-released, it was just so close to the initial release. It was basically the exact week after, or basically, it was either the exact week after or the week after that week. It was very, very close. But now we finally have it again. It's actually the best faction in the entire game at this current moment in time, as far as overall loot is concerned, mainly because it has so many treasure rooms in it. So yeah, really good one to farm up if you haven't already. But do keep in mind, if you are using it as a low-level delve in order to farm it on a daily basis, anything that you do within this faction event will permanently increase it. So if you currently have it at level 100, do not go beyond 100 on this event, otherwise going any further will make it go further permanently. Same if you're camping on level 20, just completely ignore the event then if you're camping on 20, and other similar things. So do be wary of that if you are camping it, that doing it during this event will permanently raise it on your faction level. On Wednesday, we have the new Shark Pet. I believe it's just cosmetic, and yeah, we'll just have a cute shark. Thursday, we're going to be having Shaman hero class. Pretty decent since you can use it with things like Ketris and all the other Tauruses. Not too many Tauruses that really got buffed that would make that relevant, but Ketris is still an insanely good troop and ends up synergizing well with the new Gobtruffle of all things, since you can end up using the green storm that it has on it in order to make it work a little bit better. Other than that, we do a Bounty Hunter this Friday. We will be getting another troop for this faction, which will end up giving it another star level, little dinosaur thing, so we have that. And other than that, we have Soulforge. So, Soulforge this week, we do have one thing that's worth crafting, and that is Infernus. Infernus, really good first craft, good to have as one of your first few crafts as well, if you don't necessarily go for it first. Just an overall really good, well-rounded troop. I personally don't use it too much, but it's a nice damage source to have around, or at least I don't use it too much these days. But still an insanely good troop nonetheless. It deals a lot of damage to 2 random enemies, half damage to those adjacent enemies, ends up getting explosion on that. Still one of the only troops that has a storm into an explosion into a high damage source, which makes for a really good combo. And regardless of how relevant he is, he's always going to be the best burning troop in the entire game, capable of burning all enemies as long as you take an extra turn. And this, assuming they can all be burned, is 12 damage per turn, which obviously stacks up to be a lot of damage over time automatically, especially earlier on in the game. And anything that ends up using burns, like Elma Grimm or heroes that do triple damage on burning, tend to be insanely good with Infernus, since you need his automatic burns in order to get rolling very quickly. So yeah, Infernus, really great utility and damage source to have, and highly advised to get. It's one of your first few mythics. If you do have him and still looking for something to craft, the only other thing that's really worth it in all of this would maybe be Famine. I personally don't use him too much these days, but he's good to have around just for mana drain. There's a lot of counters to mana drain currently, but he still has a 4 times mana drain. Ends up getting almost one shot in some game modes, like in about PvP and Guild Wars and stuff. And still an okay Guild Wars option to have either on defend or even offensively for some specific color days. He's seen better days. Almost wish they would have lowered his mana cost to what he used to be, which was 20 or 22. He's been buffed and nerfed a lot of times. In total, probably like 4 or 5 times. In his current state, he's rather average, but still one of the best drainers in the game. And for that reason, he's at least semi-relevant. Also, do keep in mind, while Apocalypse troops don't currently associate to a kingdom, they are highly planning on adding all of the Apocalypse troops into Sinner Mirage Kingdom. So he might be relevant if that ever ends up happening as far as kingdom upgrades are concerned. So do be wary of that. While he isn't currently required for a kingdom upgrade, he might be in the future. And other than that, of course, weapons, nothing too particularly good. However, if you do want to go get them, the Rage Reaver and Primal Axe are currently within the Soulforge. These do end up costing a little bit of diamonds, but if you want them for completion purposes, they're both here. If you're only going for one because you can only afford one or the other, I would say Primal Axe is the better option. This one ends up buffing based off of Wild Plains and a slightly better coloration, whereas this ends up buffing based on Tauruses. And between the two, I would say you'd have slightly more options with Wild Plains to be able to use it, given that almost all Tauruses within the game are already in Wild Plains to begin with. So you're basically just getting more of a range and better coloration with the Primal Axe. And that's pretty much it for that. So let's go over some teams real quick. First thing I just wanted to show is King Gobtruffle again. I haven't showed it on a Monday video yet, despite that we have showed it in a few other instances. But I did want to show this just because he is a really, really good troop. Currently using it with Warden. Main reason for this, there's 2 of them. Well, technically 3. One is because I don't have it leveled. But that's not the main reason. There's 2 main reasons why I'm actually using this. One is it has Green Storm. Anything with Green Storm is pretty good with the setup. Any hero quest that you have that uses Green Storm. But aside from that, it also ends up having Dispel. Dispel gets rid of all positive status effects every single time you take an extra turn. And this thing basically just infinitely takes extra turn. So you can just do that to get rid of all of their positive status effects that they might ever gain. Like Barrier, Submerge being one of the bigger ones, and anything else that they might end up gaining that might hinder you from being able to instantly destroy them with Infinite Loop. You would also occasionally want to run Cleanse on this team if they're running Freeze or similar mechanics that might hinder your own team by putting a Shegra Heart there. However, I did recently end up switching over to Glaive. Main reason for this is you can use it for... Oh, I thought we already won. But you can use it for a higher concentration of damage onto the enemy by using all of the skulls, assuming that they actually aligned and you just don't use them randomly like that. But it's also just higher damage AoE-wise. I believe it's, if you have it fully maxed, it's around a 12 higher damage or so than that which you're going to be getting from the troop itself. It also ends up replenishing your Green Storm, which ends up helping a lot if you've already gone past 4 turns. because the team would have no way to keep doing Greenstorm otherwise if you didn't end up doing that off of its final perk that it has. Also has an Entangle to make sure that you don't take as much damage if you completely fail like I just did there and accidentally give the enemies a bunch of Doom Skulls. So as a backup measure to make sure that even if you burst down and don't necessarily fully finish them off with the damage, you can still not die to it. And yeah, ends up working out really good. One of the better teams in the entire game right now, actually. So I'm really surprised they didn't tweak it at all, but yeah, currently looks like they will be keeping it as is. So let's go over some teams. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go show Qilin no rope dart. So this was one of the ones I wanted to show, was the Ishballa Qilin team without a rope dart. Normally you would use it pretty much exactly like he's doing it with rope dart. However, let's see if we can actually win without it. Probably not, because this team doesn't have much counter to Entangle unless we can get the Bless on it on our final slot. But let's hope we can. So he's going to get a Mercy here. I just need to make sure we do not give him alignment. And by that, I mean give him alignment, because there is no way we can stop him. So that's quite unfortunate. Actually, there is a way to... Nope, never mind. No way to stop him. Well, we'll take that for now. He will go and get that Mercy. As long as he doesn't go too crazy here, we should be fine. We can bless that. That's fine. That's the whole premise of the team that I wanted to show. Don't kill our premise. Well, apparently, still better with rope dart. But anyways, that was obviously I would be still better with rope dart. But if you don't have rope dart, you can still use this as an alternative. And let's go use it now against something that isn't rope dart. Of course, that team is just ridiculously annoying. But you can use it with this now. You do end up getting enough red off of the Qilin cast that you can go feed right into it and use it for doubling and just keep the loop of this team rolling. Obviously, rope dart slightly better, but if you don't have rope dart, like most people probably don't, it's still good enough to use. So we'll take this for now. Hopefully have alignment so we can start getting this team rolling. Do want to have Divine Ishballa mana. We can move that right into position, so we should be fine here. So we can just do that to get our alignment there, and now we should just be able to loop. If we don't have alignment, we can simply just go for the Skeleros. It does look like we might need it soon, but we'll wait until we have no alignment whatsoever, until we actually go for it. So we'll go for another Qilin there. And unfortunately, it does have Skull Reflect, so that does end up killing us out. Go for a little bit of yellow mana here until we get all that mana back up. It looks like we probably won't have alignment here. Okay, we do. Never mind. Looks like we get one last cast of it before we have to need Skeleros. So we'll go to that. And it looks like we have reached the end of the line in that we have no other way to keep the skulls going. So we'll go double it and use that to just get a gigantic burst. And that should pretty much be matched. We'll get our reds back. Excess reds go leak right back into them if we do end up getting any. And we can just win out like that. So runs somewhat similar. Not as good as rope dart, but if you don't have it, that's about the closest you're really going to get. Is just use the slightly buffed Skeleros. A few other things you could use it for too. You can use the Shaman hero class to feed a half mana start, so only ends up needing 6 mana. But overall, the Skeleros buff I don't feel like is going to be game breaking for anything. It's a nice little utility troop still, but it's not really going to become really popularly used, I don't feel like. It wasn't that much of a buff. It was just a 1 lower mana cost and 2 higher skulls is the main adjustment that they ended up doing to it. So next up, we're going to be going with a Bane Jaw, technically anti-purple Guild War team. The team that we're up against is slightly purple. It's creating a lot of purple and uses 2 purple. Not exactly what you'd see on a purple Guild War, but for now, I guess it's going to be close enough for showing purposes. This is obviously Yagwe Queen of Tanya team, mainly because Yagwe Queen of Tanya is good at countering purple, in that Yagwe constantly removes it. So that's basically the premise we're going with here. Does look like we're going to get entangled, so we won't be able to use his 2 times skull damage. However, we will still be able to utilize the fact that he does triple damage to purple, which makes up 2 of his team, meaning that we are most likely going to be able to hit them. Well, I guess it makes half because he's going to keep getting summons because he is using that giant spider setup thing. He's not ever really going to have any purples to use since we can constantly keep denying it with Yagwe, though. Any purples that are on the board. This also should be untangled soon, so we can go get that 1 shot onto his hero and just get that killed out. So we are going to go with this. That should hopefully give us a Yagwe alignment. I mean, a Tapon alignment, which we don't have. So we'll go for that. Take our other mana down. Actually, at this point, let's move that first. We'll get a Yagwe. That'll get a skull drops. And we just go from there. Get our pokes. Looks like he's going to get quite a bit of lust damage on us. Not much we can really do about that since we don't actually have a direct healer. So he's just going to have to do that. And we have no real way to deal with it other than, I guess, stealing a little bit of his HP off of him using our Yagwe there. But we'll go and just hit him again. That will double lust us. But from here, it looks like 1 more Yagwe would be able to do it. And we'll just take it out with that. And doesn't look like we really got to use him this time, unfortunately. We need a really heavy purple Guild War to really be able to do it. I guess we can go try testing it against our own Guild War real quick. I guess we'll do that. I was messing around with testing all my Guild War teams earlier, so might as well keep going with it. So defend, currently just have it as explore team, something weak. But let's go try it against our actual Guild War purple, since it's going to be almost impossible to try finding someone who's using purple in PvP specifically. So purple defend. I am currently using... oh wait, never mind. My purple... Yeah. Wait, what? Yeah. What am I doing? Use my purple defend against the... I mean, my purple guild... I'm trying to do it the other way around. My bad. I need to use my purple guild war on defend, which is why my brain is like fizzling here. Because normally you wouldn't set this on defend, you would use it offensively. But we're doing the inverse to try to show this. So that's what I'm currently using for purple guild war. Basically just a all-in Wild Queen team, keeping Hero alive and backup of web spinners from Arachne Weaver. So we'll go see how that ends up doing against this. And just kill it out real quick, hopefully. Here's the chance that it could end up destroying us, but hopefully it won't. It shouldn't. We have our ability. Obviously, it missing its target would normally be bad. However, given that this is Purple Guild War, or simulated Purple Guild War, it will end up hitting, obviously, a purple, since his entire team is purple. So we'll just do that. We'll go for this ability now. Whatever it hits, in Guild War context, probably would die, because you do have quite a bit more magic in there. But for now, we'll just try killing out the queen. Obviously, it ends up missing there. He does end up doing 8 skulls, and those 8 skulls do end up doing 2 times damage if he wasn't stunned. Fortunately, he is stunned, so he doesn't get that 2 times damage aspect, but he still gets triple damage on the ability itself, which cannot be stunned. At least he got that down. He did poke us a few times. Looks like he's going to die. One thing that he does lack is any kind of skull mitigation. While he does have Bloodlust and the extra damage, he does not have the 25% armor like a few of the other gnolls do. That's a slight disadvantage that he has compared to them. Doesn't make too big a difference, but it can be the difference between life and death on a given skull. And can survive 1 skull longer if you did have something like that, which he does not. But we'll go and get that there. Should be able to easily get that, and that should be match, or almost match. I think we'll be ever so slightly short on damage, so much so I'm thinking I'm just going to take a skull here. And never mind, we do 2 times skull damage, and by 2 times, I do mean 3.5 times, because that hits through traits, and that enrage stacks with it. So, yeah, 3.5 times skull damage right there. That was over 140 damage or so, 140, 150 with that skull, which ended up easily killing it out. So that's what that ends up looking like. Other than that, just a few other things I just wanted to show real quick. The main one being Silver Necropolis for Tuesday event. If you want to run that, the restriction is... Wow, I almost forgot off the top of my head. I believe it's brown and purple, if I'm not mistaken. And with that being said, that normally encompasses a lot of undead troops as far as that coloration. However, you can just run the Gargoyle team and just simply use a rock troll for your mana accumulation method. Slightly different than, of course, Apothecary, but ends up working out very well. Just double Gargoyle it, and same general premise as normal for running the lower levels of the faction. And this faction does allow for the absolute meta, which is Mountain Crusher, Iron Gut, Zugoth, and Possessed King, and other similar setups to that. So you do have that as access if you want to go and use that for this faction, since that's one of the stronger options for doing the later delves. Other than that, for Shaman event this Thursday, there are 2 ways you can go about it. You can use the new buff Soothsayer for the lower level range if you want to go do this. I'm probably going to do this even though I have Dawnbringer, just because Black Manacles keep spamming. You keep gaining 1 to all stats off of this, feeding it mana. Your entire banner goes into Black Manacle, and each of these have a +1 brown, so you're going to be able to get a +5 total brown for your hero, and just get it up in 2 turns, spam it out, and just Black Manacle, Black Manacle, Black Manacle, and just spam that way in order to play out the event. You could also do this with pretty much any hero class, so a half mana start would be the most ideal to do it with. And other than that, if you wanted to use a higher range of, or if you wanted to do the later battles and get all of them done, you would basically just use Shaman class or any hero class with shield like Titan, and then just go Mountain Crusher, Sun Weaver, and double Ketris. If you don't have double Ketris, replace out the second Ketris with a Soothsayer. And if you have 3 Ketrises, you can go and just replace out the entire team into Ketrises. And just go 3 Ketrises, let the enchant get them all up, and win almost every battle just by spamming 3 Ketrises down. And Mountain Crusher will feed 2 mana to the ones that are blocked, which will be 1 whole less turn of enchant that you need to waste. And you do get to start on 13 mana with these, 11 from the half mana start, and then another 2 from the enchant. So you only need to wait, after the first turn, you'd only need to wait 5 turns. And with 1 Mountain Crusher, that would reduce down these mountain turns by 1. So you basically just go Explode, get a Ketris down, wait a little bit, Ketris dead, and that should take out pretty much every single battle when you're going through the later parts of the class battle. So if you want to get Shaman max, now's the time, because to be able to do that, all you'd really need is the final trait. You don't actually necessarily need any of the perks to be able to do that setup. So good time to go get Shaman leveled if you happen to want to on this particular event. Anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for this video. If you still have any other questions or anything you want me to go over, let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.